Okay, Eric, since we're talking about lying today, I got a tough one for you. Imagine that it's Christmas and you get a present from your grandma. And as she gives this present to you, you can see in her eyes how excited she is to give it. So you open the wrapping paper and you find a real ugly sweater. It's like pink with a moose on it. And your reaction is, shit, I'm never going to wear this. And grandma asks, do you like the sweater? What do you say?
That's a tough one. I would say that I like the sweater and that I appreciate the work that she put into this. That's what I would say.
Got it. So like a white lie.
I like the gift.
All right.
I never said that I would wear it.
Okay, so you talk around the question a little bit.
I would talk.
But imagine this then. You go home, you put the sweater in deep down in your drawer, you forget about it, and next Christmas you return and grandma looks at you again with excitement in her eyes and asks...
shouldn't have invited grandma for Christmas.
And she asks you, did you wear the sweater that I gave you?
I saw that one coming. Yeah, I would tell her no. Not quite sure how I would phrase it, but I wouldn't lie to that direct question, and I would probably try to talk around it again. But yeah.
So you're a monster that breaks grandma's heart over a sweater.
Yeah, I'm a monster, but at least I dress well.
Okay, that's true. So why are we talking about lying today?
Right. So we wanted to understand the topic of lying from a practical perspective, not if it's morally right or ethically wrong or whatever, but how it actually impacts our everyday life. What are the common lies that we tell and why are we telling them?
We wanted to answer to two questions. One, are there lies that actually makes our life better that we should keep doing? And two, which lies hurt us even if we never get caught lying?
And we have spent well over 100 hours planning this episode to make sure that we can give you practical tips on things that you can apply in your life today. So make sure you stay to the end of this episode so you don't miss any of them. And before we move on, make sure that you click like and subscribe, because we will put in hundreds of hours into our future episodes as well. And we will only pick topics that we believe will give you lots of value to have a great life. So being a trustworthy and honest 15-year-old, I obviously didn't do that. I didn't at all tell my friend Jacob that I was going to sleep at his place, but then sleep at her place. Okay, yeah, I did. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. But yeah, that happened.
And if you're new here to this podcast, I am here with, as always, my best friend, Eric Bergman. Eric is the founder of Great.com, a company that gives away all of its profits to save the environment. Eric made over 50 million euros before he turned 30 when he founded his first company, Catena Media, that went from 0 to 300 employees in just 5 years. And on the side of Great, he teaches entrepreneurship and personal development to his over 1 million followers in social media. Pleasure podcasting with you, Eric.
Pleasure podcasting with you. That's a beautiful way of saying it.
Right.
And as always, I'm here with Emil, who I've known for 15 years now. And he is among the smartest people that I've ever met. He's a complete personal development geek, nerd, freak. I don't know.
All of them.
All of them. And he does this podcast with me as well as run a personal development and coaching business. And he's my creative sparring partner. So I just love doing these kinds of projects with him.
Right. And together we create the BecomingGreat.com podcast. And our goal with this is to be the podcast in the world that has the most value per minute out of any podcast within entrepreneurship and personal development. And our plan to accomplish this is to spend ridiculous amounts of time planning and preparing each episode. We spend over 100 hours preparing for this episode. And we will do that in future episodes as well. And we also don't have any advertisement. So think of us the next time you get annoyed by advertisement in another podcast. And our goal to give you the most value per minute out of any podcast in the world. Today's episode will be divided into 5 different topics, each covering a certain type of lie. The first one is about lying to avoid difficult conversations. And that is the type of lie you tell to avoid telling a family member that, I don't want to go to this dinner. Or maybe telling your grandma that, I actually don't like your sweater. Or telling your girlfriend that, hey, I don't want to spend time with you today. And we will take a look at when are these lies a good idea and when will they hurt you, even if you don't get caught.
And in topic 2, we will talk about lying to avoid responsibility. And these lies are often lies you actually tell yourself rather than other people. It could be things like, I would go to the gym if I only had the time, or I would quit my job if I could afford to take the risk. And we will look into when in your life these lies are actually good and when they will hurt you.
The third topic is white lies. And this is a fun topic because white lies are so socially acceptable. You know, the lies you tell to protect someone else's feeling. But the tricky thing is that behind the good intention is often other, uglier intentions that we are often unaware of. We're going to explore when are these lies good to use and when should you stay away from them.
And in the fourth topic, we'll look on the probably most typical lie. The lie when you're trying to get something. And this could be lying to get status or to get money or sex or whatever. And we will look into when in your life this lie is a good idea and when it's a bad idea.
The fifth topic is the toolbox for honesty, where many of us are aware that instead of lying, we should probably be honest. But we're not, because honesty is hard. So in this topic, you will learn 6 steps to make difficult conversations easier so you can be more honest.
And for you listening, if you want better relationships, more energy, more discipline, more focus, and just a better life, then make sure that you press like and subscribe to this video. And keep following this podcast because we will put into hundreds of hours into every topic, and we will only cover the topics that we believe genuinely will give you a great life. Let's dig into the new episode.
She was screaming at me, and I screamed back to her. We started talking softly on the couch, but it just escalated. This was a few years ago when I was breaking up with my ex-girlfriend, and I had never seen a person this angry. Like, in the end, before she left, she picked up a lamp that she had given to me, and she smashed it into the floor. And in the days after the breakup, it felt like I had been hit by a truck. Like, I had never been that sad in my adult life. I couldn't stop crying. And I just remembered her, like how angry she was at me. Yeah, I was heartbroken. I looked around in my apartment and I saw little things that she had left, you know, like some flowers that she got from me. And yeah, just trying to process the memories and at the same time feeling so much guilt for like what I had done to her.
What did you feel guilty about?
How we ended up where we did. I look back at it and I can see that so much of that was my fault.
Where did you end up?
We ended up with me feeling extremely trapped in this relationship. And I felt like I was losing myself. I was losing my identity. And I was blaming her back then. But now, years later, when I reflect on it, I can see that a lot of it was my fault.
Okay, so you felt trapped in the relationship. How did you end up feeling trapped? What took you there?
So let me back up a bit.
Yeah, please.
She's an amazing person. Like, I look back at her and I smile because she's a beautiful human. And we were struggling since the beginning because we had different priorities. You know, one of her biggest values was to spend time with her friends, me, and her family. And one of my biggest values was to focus on my work. And a lot of time she would ask me, do you want to come and see my family? Or do you want to spend time with me tonight? And often I wanted to, but other times, I wanted to work on projects like bringing this podcast to the world and running my business. And I felt like it took too much time away from my business because she wanted to meet more often than I had space for. But, we had just met and I was in love and I didn't dare to stand up for what I really wanted. So a lot of times when she asked me, do you want to come to this dinner? I felt no, but I said, sure, I'll come.
Okay, so you started doing things for her that you didn't really want to do? What was your intention?
I wanted to be a good boyfriend. I wanted to be a person that made her happy.
Yeah, and a good boyfriend should want to spend more time with her than working, for example.
Definitely. And I wanted to spend time with her, but sometimes I didn't want to do it. But I felt too much shame admitting that. So it felt easier to say yes. And I kept doing this in more and more situations. It was one evening here, one trip there, one family dinner there. And I just ended up feeling like I don't know when I can say no or how to do that.
Okay, so when you describe it as you feeling trapped, you kind of feel that you have to give up something of yourself to be the boyfriend you think that she wants.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't feel like I had any other choice. I tried to tell her sometimes that, no, I actually want to work tonight, but I didn't communicate that well. So she would end up being, disappointed or angry. And I just felt like a bad boyfriend. And I didn't want to be a bad boyfriend. So I just kept giving up what I want and what I needed more and more and more, until in the end, I just felt like so trapped and that I had to get out of there.
What's an example of a lie like this? What was a typical thing that happened?
She could ask, I want to have dinner with my family on Sunday. Do you want to come? And my instinct would be, no, I don't. I want to do this project. But I said, yeah, I'll come. And then I would go there and I wouldn't really have access to my, normal enthusiastic self, because I felt like I was there not because I wanted to. And then I would, blame her and just become like a bit passive aggressive, and those things kept happening.
How did doing this make you feel about her? Did you get angry with her?
Yeah, resentment. I felt like she was keeping me in a prison.
Okay.
That it was her fault that I couldn't do what I wanted to do.
Okay, was it her fault?
No, totally not. No, she never asked me to do these things. And she probably thought that I wanted to do these things because I kept saying yes and kept trying to put on a big smile when I went there.
Okay, how did this make you feel about yourself?
I felt lost and confused, and that I was powerless.
Did you like yourself?
When I went there, even though I didn't want to, I couldn't access genuine joy. And then I felt shame for myself. I felt I should be happier than I am. I should want to be here more than I do. So I always felt like there was something wrong with me. So no, I didn't like myself.
Okay, so I think I'm getting the picture better. So you started by telling that she was really angry with you and that you ended up, because you felt trapped in your relationship, and I assumed you never told her that before.
No, I wanted her to feel like the relationship was good. So I pretended to be happier in the relationship than I was.
So when you broke up with her, she got really surprised, or?
Yeah, I think it came like a shock for her. Maybe she had some ideas because we had some small fights, but I don't think she knew how trapped I felt.
Okay, so could you say that all of these small lies, like going to this dinner and doing this thing and staying home, whatever, all turned into like a big lie of the entire relationship, of like you being happy?
Yeah,
even though you probably never said that out loud or specifically, but that became kind of a big lie created from all of those small lies.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, then, I mean, it makes sense that she gets shocked and angry, and probably she feels like you have told her a big lie, even though you maybe haven't. Well, technically, whatever you want to look at it. And the reason is because you've tried to be a good boyfriend. So you've had the best of intentions all the time here. You've tried to protect her feelings, and you tried to be the boyfriend that she would want you to be. But at the end of the day, all the pain comes out of nowhere and just flushes over her.
Yeah, totally. And a lot of it ended up on her, which is why I feel so much regret looking back at this experience. We haven't really talked since this happened.
Wow.
And I feel like a lot of that is on me.
Yeah. Yeah, it probably is. Okay, so for you listening, let's break this story down a little bit and start by looking at if Emil was even lying at all, or if it's a lie to say that you don't want to go to a dinner or do want to go to dinner.
I think it's so common to do this.
I think it's so common. Yes, a definition that we like is from Sam Harris. He's an author of the book Lying, and he says that lying is to intentionally mislead someone when they expect honest communication.
To intentionally mislead someone when they expect honest communication. All right. So from that filter, let's look at when she asked me if I wanted to come to a dinner. She asks me, do you want to go to a dinner with me on Sunday? And she expects me to be honest with how I feel there. And I'm misleading her by telling her that I want to, when the truth is that I don't want to. So even though my intention is good, I lie. But it's good to not wanting to hurt someone, right?
Yes. I mean, we'll look more into like the intentions later on in this episode, because then we're touching on the white lies part of things. But if we just look at hurting someone, I think this is one of the biggest issues in relationships, that we are so hesitant of hurting someone else that we end up hurting ourselves. And then by the end of it, we just hurt each other even more than what we had to. Because I think in so many situations in relationships, there isn't an option of not hurting. Like, I think that's a key thing to understand about relationships. And it took me many years to understand that. Like, there will always be pain, and pain is a part of life. So what you need to be able to do is to communicate about pain and help each other heal and deal with pain.
Right. Instead of pretending that there is no pain to make her feel good in the moment.
Yeah, and you are taking on that pain, and you're not letting her even know about it. She doesn't even know that you're hurting, so you need to keep pretending that life is good. So at that dinner, you need to pretend that you're happy, which is a lie in itself. Like, you lie by just being there. So you create it becomes like a web of different lies surrounding you.
Yeah.
And even if it's based on you wanting to be a good boyfriend and not wanting to hurt her, pain will happen. Tears will come, like lamps will be crashed.
But I tried a couple of times to tell her that I don't feel like going today, but it just ended up in, her being disappointed or angry, and it just made the relationship worse. Like, there was no good outcomes of telling the truth.
So did you keep trying to find a better way?
Tried a few times, but then I kind of stopped and just went along with it instead.
Okay, so if someone switched a button that made you unable to lie, how do you think this would have impacted your relationship? Like, what would you have had to become?
See the movie Liar Liar. No, but I would have to be honest with what caused me pain and really try to find a win-win solution. And I would have to raise my communication skills a lot, and I would need to grow as a person. Yeah. But I think finding some kind of win-win solution would have been necessary. And I wasn't even trying for that now. I found a win for her, lose for me situation and just accepted it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so as well. Just having the conversation would make it possible to find a win-win.
Yeah.
Now you decided to lose without
Yeah.
even asking her if that's what she wanted.
And also, I didn't put myself in any situations where I would learn to become a better communicator. I
No.
just stayed silent.
Yeah. Okay, so let's summarize this a little bit. Like, it is a lie, regardless of what your intention is, and you end up creating pain, maybe more pain than you would have done otherwise. Even though what you're trying to do is to avoid pain for both of you. And if you weren't allowed to lie, if you didn't have that button, you would be forced to become a much better communicator and involve her in whatever decision that goes on. You can't make the choice of I will suffer so that she won't. You can't hide that pain. So you will have to find ways of dealing with it. And am I missing something?
No, but a reflection that comes to me is that even with that button, the relationship might not have survived. Maybe we would have broken up anyway because we had different needs. But I think at least it might not have been a breakup where we broke lamps. Maybe we would have been friends today. Maybe I would have looked back at this feeling proud instead of regretful.
Maybe you would have broken up a lot earlier and that would have been the best thing. Because maybe you weren't compatible, but because of you kind of taking on the pain and not showing that you're not compatible, you stayed in this way longer than it was beneficial for any of you.
Totally.
And there's also another big reason why we lie. And it is that we want to avoid a certain emotion. Can you guess which one?
Tell me.
Okay, so when you were lying because you wanted to be a good boyfriend, what emotion would you feel if you felt that you were a bad boyfriend?
Shame, guilt, shame.
Yeah, shame. Like, it's shameful to be a bad boyfriend. So by telling her, yes, I want to go to your parents, you avoid feeling the shame of being a good boyfriend, a bad boyfriend.
Yeah, totally. So help me understand then, how does shame relate to lying?
Yeah, so let's start by defining shame. And I'm going to read the definition of Brené Brown, she's a researcher at the University of Houston, and she's researching shame, and she's got big TED Talks and stuff about it. And she says that shame is an intensely painful feeling or experience of believing that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging.
Wow, that's a powerful definition. A shorter way of saying it could be that you believe something about you is unacceptable, that something about you is not okay, and that we need to hide that from the world, because otherwise we will not be loved and included and everything else that we want.
Exactly. So how does this tie into the example about the dinner?
That I feel like if I say no, that I rather want to work than be with her family. I feel like I'm a bad person, and that would be unacceptable. So I need to hide that part of myself from the world by pretending that I want to go to the dinner.
Yeah. So you feel shame of wanting to work. You feel that it's not okay that you want to work instead of being with her.
Yeah.
That's like a bad personal trait of yours. And
yeah.
Probably means that you don't love her as much as you should, or whatever.
I can see how that feeling is like the birthing pod for lying, like trying to cover that up.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to feel that feeling.
Yeah.
So this comes back to like, you don't want to hurt her, but you also don't want to feel the shame.
Right. So it's what I logically tell myself is I want to be a good boyfriend. I want her to be happy, but I just don't want me to feel shame.
Both are true. I mean, you want to be a good boyfriend. Yeah. You want her to be happy. But a big reason why you want that below that is because you would feel shame if you didn't do that.
Yeah. And I was totally unaware of that back then.
Yeah, so this is what I mean when I say that a big reason why we lie are that we want to avoid the feeling of shame. Because in looking at this, like, you lied and you didn't have to show her that you wanted to work instead of being with her. So you don't get the chance to get her validation on that it's okay that you want to work, or you didn't get the chance to get to a point where you can explain what the work means to you or why that's so important. Like,
Or tell myself that.
or tell yourself that. You
Yeah.
just communicate this is not okay. And you end up in like a downward spiral of this. So you tell a lie to hide a part of yourself, which means that you don't get to start liking that part of yourself. You tell yourself, this part is not okay. I'm hiding it.
Yeah, I'm
Like,
reinforcing the belief that I have to hide this part of my personality.
yeah, exactly. So when you're lying to hide a part of yourself, you're subcommunicating to yourself, like, this part is bad.
Yeah.
I shouldn't show this to other people.
It's
Let's hide
unacceptable.
it.
Yeah.
So then you start liking this part even less because you're
Yeah.
telling yourself this is bad. So what are you going to do the next time?
Lie even more.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what happened in the relationship. I just kept lying because I
Yeah.
felt worse and worse self-esteem, more and more shame.
Yeah. And so the less you like yourself, the more things you will have to lie about
Totally.
to hide. And this spiral just goes down and down because you keep lying. So there are more parts of yourself that you're hiding. And at the end of the day, you will feel trapped because you are no longer yourself. You've hidden so many parts of you and don't know how to communicate about them. So the only way becomes to step away from the person you're lying to.
Yeah.
So that you can be yourself again.
Wow. Yeah, I really didn't see it from that perspective. So what can I do then to break this downward spiral of lies and move upwards instead?
I have an example from my own life. Let me share that and we'll see how those two ties together.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll start with a little bit of a background. Me and my fiance, we've been a couple for 12 years. And ever since we met, she has said that she wants 4 kids. And I'm like you. I love my projects. I want to build things. I love my freedom. I love creativity. I'm not a fan of kids. Like, it feels like shameful just to say everyone is supposed to love kids. But I've never spent much time around children, and I've never felt that I really wanted to. Like, I felt that I want to be a father at some point. I want to see someone grow up and be a part of that journey. And I mean, from a purely selfish perspective, I want to know what all the fuss is about. Like, I don't want to die curious and have missed out on that essential part of life. But it hasn't been something I've been looking forward to do. And 7 months ago, me and Johanna, we got our first child, a son named Tom. And it's been really hard on me. Like, I haven't enjoyed being a father. I felt that I lost many of the things that I valued the most in my life. Like, to a large extent, I lost my relationship with Johanna, at least temporarily. Like, we haven't slept in the same bed for 7 months. And she is more kind of his girlfriend than my girlfriend at the moment. And I miss her, and that hurts. And I haven't had my freedom. Like, something that I valued a lot is to run my own life in the ways that I want. Now, there's always this screaming meatloaf who needs my attention. And I haven't had the energy or the creativity or motivation to work on my projects. I've done a lot less than I usually do. So if we go back to your story before, you felt that you lost your identity and who you were. I feel it similarly, but for very different reasons. Johanna, on the other hand, she has dreamed about becoming a mother since, I don't know, she understood what the mother was, pretty much. When she was in kindergarten and they asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? She was like, I want to be a mommy. And that's pretty much been her dream since forever. So she has loved this. And if we then take this into the like showing how you feel and having difficult conversations, like how do you tell the mother of your child who loves being a mother that you don't enjoy being the father?
Yeah, that's tricky. And everybody must be congratulating you, and family members must be so happy and like, oh, how exciting for you.
So everyone says congratulations, and I'm supposed to say thank you and be happy, but I don't feel joy. So I feel that I'm supposed to light up, and like it's similar to what you described before. Like you're supposed to be happy here, and when you're not, you feel shame.
Yeah.
And
it's weird even hearing you say this, because I just imagine me listening to this, and maybe many other people listening to this should be, yeah, but shut the fuck up. You're a dad. You should just smile and be happy and take care of Tom.
Exactly. That's what's expected.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do take care of Tom. I give him lots of my energy and I do my best to give him lots of my love, but it's hard. And so once again, like going back to there isn't a way to avoid pain in a relationship. So I could swallow all of this and I could fake it and maybe keep Johanna happy. But for the first, it wouldn't work because she knows me way too well. She would see right through that. And I would feel a lot of resentment towards both her and Tom if I did. So, and I would feel a lot of pain. So the other option is like, show her my pain. It's going to make her feel pain and it's going to make me feel pain and it's not going to be easy. But at least she will have all the information that I have. She will have all the knowledge, whatever I can show her. And this is what I've done. So I've cried a lot and I've told her like, I feel ashamed about this. I feel that I'm not what I'm supposed to be. I feel like a bad fiance, like a bad father feeling this way, but it's the truth. And she has been really sad and upset about that. That's the truth, but it's the truth.
It's so cool what you're doing there as well, because you're putting your shame on the table in front of her. So you're showing yourself that this part of me is acceptable. This part of me is okay, even though I feel ashamed for it.
Yeah. I mean, by her acknowledging it, seeing it, and by me talking about it, I think the mother of shame is secrecy. Like once you start talking about something, it's really hard to feel ashamed of it. But when you hide it, shame can live forever.
Yeah.
And this is what happens here, that I talk about this with her, I talk about it with you, I talk about it publicly, and suddenly it becomes almost impossible for me to feel shame about it because it's just there. I don't necessarily want it to be there. I haven't chosen it, but it's there. And what has happened with all of this, first and foremost, there's been a lot of pain, a lot of crying. There's still a lot of pain. Johanna is still very sad about this, and I'm sad about this. And it's even gone to the extent that Johanna told me that she has a voice in her head that says, maybe I should get the other kids with someone else, someone who wants to be a father. Like,
because she wants more kids.
Yeah, she wants more kids. She wants 4 kids. That's like what she wants. And once again, looking at this from her perspective, imagine the shame about having that voice in her head, thinking that, okay, I should probably get these kids with someone else, even though she loves me, even though we spent 12 years together. And she has addressed this like, I have this voice in my head. I'm not saying I'm going to act on it. I'm not saying it's even the truth in the long term, but it's there. And I've been able to hear her and feel the sadness and pain about that, but also share her reality.
And so cool that she feels safe enough to even say that in the relationship.
Yeah.
But this seems like a very hard conversation to have. I think most of us couldn't say that you don't like being a father or say that you want to have kids with someone else without risking a divorce.
Yes, it is a very, very hard conversation. And this is not where I started having these conversations. So if we look at this from like a spiral going up or down, like in the beginning, it's really hard to just say, I don't want to visit your parents this weekend because of shame and whatever. And we've had that conversation as well, but that was many years ago. And me wanting to kind of be honest with those feelings then, we had lots of conversations about me wanting to have more sex than her, which took me 7 years before I even like dared to openly talk about. So it is a very difficult conversation, but the higher up in the shame spiral you kind of come, like the less shame you would feel, and the less shameful it feels for me to tell her that I'm not happy being a father right now. So it is a super hard conversation. No, it's still very hard, and it's not where you would start, but it lands on a place where there's pretty much nothing I feel shame about in our relationship, and I don't feel a need of lying or hiding this, and I feel that I can give myself love and support feeling this way. I can get her love and support feeling this way, and I can love and support her for the feelings it creates in her.
Yeah.
So instead of being on two isolated shame islands where I feel ashamed of not wanting to be a father, she feels ashamed about maybe wanting the kids with someone else, or at least like having that thought, we can share an island where we can support each other and be a part of the reality that the other person is feeling.
And that is such a core of a loving relationship. And what's interesting when I hear you speak now is that you've for many years been very open publicly about a lot of difficult things that you're going through. And in the beginning, I was thinking, and I guess many listeners are thinking, oh, he's very open, but I don't know why he's doing it. But I can see from the perspective of being honest that how it helps you create a much more loving relationship with yourself and for those you're in close relationship with. That it's really something, there's really a benefit to honesty compared to lying that I think few people are aware of.
Yeah, I like that question. Like, what is the benefit of being honest? Because, like you said before, it feels like being honest just creates more pain for everyone involved.
Yeah.
And it's hard to see the benefit. And I think a reason for that is that the pain that comes from being honest is often instant.
Yeah.
The benefit of being honest is often very long term. Like, I started having these painful and honest conversations with Johanna 5 years ago, which means today I feel a lot less shame than I would. But in the beginning, it was very painful and very difficult. So it's easy to think that you create less pain if you lie. But in reality, you create a lot more pain. It just takes longer to get the benefits from telling the truth. And yeah, it's, as you said, it has really helped me to get a more loving relationship with myself and to accept whatever is in me. And there are so many situations where I don't feel a need of hiding anything because I've told this in public in front of thousands of people, and then suddenly like, why would I hide it for someone else? Like, it's already out there. And it adds a level, like, if I said it, there's kind of like no need to hide it. Like, I've owned it.
Yeah.
But if I haven't said it, it's like kind of shameful to feel a certain thing. Like, if someone looks at me and I fake liking being a father and they kind of see that I don't think he really enjoys it, then it's shameful because I'm faking it.
Yeah.
But if, I don't think he likes being a father, and I'm like, yeah, I told you. It's like, it's a different thing. Yeah.
All right. So let me sum this topic up. Lying hurts us even if we don't get caught. Because when we make lies to avoid difficult conversations, we often like ourselves and other people worse. Because even if we tell ourselves that we're making this lie to make the other person happy, there's often a hidden intention to avoid a feeling of shame. And the more we hide shame, the stronger it becomes, and it's harder and harder for us to be authentic and confident. Would you add something to that?
I think it's valuable to reiterate that there is no way around pain. Like pain is a very basic part of life. And when we try to avoid it or try to protect other people from it, we often end up creating a lot more of it.
Yeah.
So it's to finding a way of dealing with pain in the moment, feeling pain, talking about pain, and helping each other to heal from pain is often a much better way than trying to avoid pain.
Right. But it sounds difficult, hence difficult conversations.
It is difficult.
What are some tools then to have more honest conversations?
So we'll talk about that in topic 5. That will be all about tools to make this easier.
Awesome. So then for now, let's close this and move on to topic 2, lies to avoid responsibility.
Let's do that. Do you know what bothers me the most about you?
No.
It's how often you are late to things. And just hearing your excuses for whatever reason that you show up late. Like when we've decided that we're going to do a podcast recording and whatever, and you show up 5 minutes late or whatever and blame it on traffic or your dog or something else. And I just feel like, yeah, there was probably traffic, but that's just not the full truth.
Yeah. So you don't believe my excuses because I've been late many times. And how does that make you feel about me?
I'm raised in a family where we take time seriously. So I'm probably harder on this than most people. But for me, I feel like disrespected when you show up late. I feel like, yeah, you don't really care about my feelings in this. It's more important that you could spend those last couple of minutes scrolling in the bathroom or whatever it really was. And then you show up with a nonchalant smile, blaming it on traffic. And if when I brought it up, you're like, yeah, I'm such a time optimist. I'm always late. And it feels like that's an excuse that I'm somehow supposed to accept. Like being a time optimist is a valid reason for coming late.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you don't need to minimize it by saying that you come from a family where time is important. That my excuses bother you is very reasonable. I understand that you feel the way that you do.
Yeah.
And yeah, this has been an issue for us for 3 years, and I'm working hard to get better at this. And I do get better,
yeah,
but I'm still late sometimes. And it's been surprisingly difficult for me to do something about it. Like I said, I've been working on this for 3 years, and I can see the biggest thing that is in between me and being able to be on time are the excuses.
What do you mean?
Like, in my mind, I would tell myself that, yeah, I'm late because I stopped and my girlfriend asked me about something, so I had to have a conversation with her, or my coffee maker exploded, or there was traffic, right? And those things might have been true, but the deeper reason for me getting late might be that I didn't plan enough time to get ready. My schedule overall might be overbooked, or I just value my own comfort more than wasting your time. And those things are harder to admit to myself. And before I do, there's no way I can actually change.
Okay, so it's similar to wanting to be a good boyfriend. It's like you could see that, yeah, but my intentions are good. I tried to be on time, but this happened. When in reality, you were in the boyfriend stories, you were trying to be a good boyfriend, but you wanted in reality to avoid shame. And it's a similar situation here where you actually wanted to prioritize your own comfort or whatever it was. But the reason you see or like admit to yourself is something else happened.
Yeah. And I can see that is pissing you off more than me actually being late. If I would have shown up and said, hey, sorry I'm late, I don't care about you. In a way, that would have been nicer to hear, I guess.
I mean, that would invite the conversation. Like, okay, do I want to be friends with someone who cares more about their own comfort than my time?
Yeah.
But when you say it's the traffic's fault, it's like that doesn't invite that conversation.
Yeah, and for me, it invites either an opportunity to be real with myself and really change, or an opportunity to be okay with that I actually don't value people's time more than my own comfort.
Yeah. So when you say these lies to me, you say them to yourself as well.
Totally, yeah.
So you don't need to confront your own identity of being someone who cares about someone else. Like, that's a part of who you see yourself as, right?
Yeah. And it's so sneaky because I frame it for myself in a way, so it's not necessarily a lie. For example, let's say I'm going to a lunch with someone and I know it takes 30 minutes to get there and I'm slow at getting ready. So I leave, exactly 30 minutes before I need to be there. And then there's traffic, so I'm 5 minutes late and I blame the traffic. Yeah. But it's not the real reason, right?
No, you could easily have left because you could have predicted that. I mean,
totally. It's not so strange that it's traffic, right?
No, and I said in the introduction, you're among the smartest people I've ever met, but you can't figure out it's going to be traffic in a big city.
Yeah. But then being smart at coming up lies for myself.
Yeah. Okay, so you've been working on this for 3 years. What is it that you are doing to work with that?
It's strange, but the only thing that is helping me actually be on time and overcome this bad habit is to remove lies as much as possible. And these lies are so sneaky, right? Because they appear to be true. So I ask myself 2 questions. The first one is this true? And sometimes that helps. But let's look at the traffic example. I leave 30 minutes before. It takes me 30 minutes to get there, and now there's traffic. And I say, sorry, I'm late because there was traffic. That is true. So the answer to the first question would be yes. But then I ask the second question, which is this the full truth? And then it becomes tricky for me because then I might have to say that, no, actually, that's not the full truth. It's also true that I didn't plan enough time. I didn't value the other person's time very much. And my schedule might be overloaded. And then there are many more things to take into account.
Okay, so you're working on this habit by getting better at catching yourself when you make up excuses to actually see, okay, this is actually not me being late because of external factors. This is because of me. And you want to change that behavior.
Definitely.
Yeah, so you want a different behavior. And you start by asking, is this true? Yes, it is traffic, but is it the full truth? No, it's also that I didn't plan and didn't care and whatnot. Okay, so let's look at a different kind of lying about responsibility that I think is super common and interesting to look at. What you said in one of your examples was, I'm late because I had to have this conversation with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
And the key words there are like, I had to have, like you had to. Like, I think I have to do this is among the most common ways of avoiding responsibility because it sounds like you have to, but it's always
true.
a choice.
I told my ex a lot of the times that I had to work late tonight, but no one was forcing me. I choose to work late.
Exactly. And that way, kind of putting the responsibility outside of your body instead of saying, I choose to work late or I want to work late. That's why I do that. Yeah. So in that way, your ex-girlfriend couldn't really blame you because you had to.
Yeah.
When in reality, that was just an excuse. So I think that wording, let's say we put that to the test with, if let's say you're being late because you had to, quote unquote, have a conversation with your girlfriend about something. And then you can ask yourself the same question. Is this true? Did I have to have a conversation? And it's not.
No, it's not. It gets stuck at the first question.
Yeah. And that applies to...
Have to and shoulds almost always get stuck at the first question.
Yeah. So it's like there are very few things in life you have to do. You're like, you have to breathe, you have to go to the bathroom, you have to eat.
You could choose to stay alive. Right?
Yeah, well, I would give you a pass on using the word have to for those things.
But there are a few things.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most common things. Like, I have to work so I don't have the time to go to the gym. Like, no, you choose to work so you don't prioritize to go to the gym.
Exactly.
Or, I don't have time to go get something healthy, so I'll eat a pizza or whatever it might be. I have to work so I don't spend time with my fiance.
So help me understand this then, because this is a podcast about personal development. How does it make me grow to take more responsibility? Because that is what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so by taking more responsibility, you force yourself to become a person who communicates better, which is like super essential in every element of human interaction. And you take ownership of who you are. So you start liking yourself more, you become more confident in what you do, and you can see that people will gravitate towards someone who is who they are. Like someone who lives their truth attracts other people, which creates opportunity and a lot of things around it.
Right. And that makes me think then, like, when I was late, I didn't take responsibility. How did that affect you as another person? Like, how did you feel about me then?
Yes, I liked you less, and you were probably not even aware of it. I felt less excited to do the podcast with you or to plan anything with you because I knew that it's very likely he will be late and I will have a bad feeling in my stomach already when we start. So I probably avoided a bunch of situations where we could have spent time together because I prioritized someone or something else that I felt more joy towards.
Yeah.
And I can see I still have relationships like this. With you, we've addressed this. We spoke about this before, but I have relationships like this around me with people who are often late. And I just enjoy spend time with them. And I sometimes avoid spending any time with them because of this, because I feel that either they don't respect my time or they aren't aware of what habits they are, or it just gets less fun. And once again, I think a lot of these lies people are totally unaware of them.
Yeah, and they hurt you even if you never get caught lying.
Exactly. It hurt our relationship even though if I didn't confront you. It's hurt my relationship with other people even though I haven't confronted them. And I don't know if there's been traffic every time or the coffee maker has exploded every time. Maybe it did. Most likely it didn't. And I don't need to confront them for these lies to hurt our relationship. And by hurting our relationship, it hurts them as well. I think it's an interesting thing to keep in mind that lies like this and many other kinds of lies hurt even if you don't get caught.
Yeah, totally. So how would you summarize lies about responsibility, avoiding responsibility?
So the first thing I think is important is that you are most likely not aware of these lies.
Yeah.
And you most likely consider these lies a lot less big of a deal than they might be because you're probably not aware of how they impact others or yourself. And like I said before, it can be, I have to work so I don't have time to go to the gym. When in reality, you don't have to work. You choose to work and you do have time to go to the gym. You just don't prioritize it.
Yeah.
So it will impact your health. And it's just easier to tell yourself this because then you don't need to deal with once again, we're coming back to shame. Like it's shameful to say I'm prioritizing work over my health.
Yeah.
which is basically what you say when you say, I have to work, so I don't have time to go to the gym.
Yeah. I prioritize watching dog videos on Instagram over Eric's time.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
shameful. Once again, you don't want to feel the shame. So it's convenient to not confront yourself with these excuses, but they will probably hurt your health and it will hurt your relationships. And going back to personal development, then it will stop you from personal development. It will stop you to grow health-wise, relationship-wise, reaching your goals, and all kinds of things.
And I think liking yourself as a person, because even when we lie to ourselves, I think there's always something in the back of our psyche that is watching us and looks and say, hey,
yeah, there is
you're lying
definitely
right
a bullshit measuring thing there.
And then we don't trust ourselves because we keep lying to ourselves.
Yeah, and then we don't end up trusting ourselves when we set goals. Like, I'm going to reach that. And inside that voice says, well, you can't even be here on time. So I'm going to call bullshit on that goal. And you're probably not going to reach it.
Totally. And the 2 questions to discover the lies to avoid responsibility are?
Yeah, so the first one, is this true? And the second one, is this the full truth? Do I have to do this? No, probably not. Was there a lot of traffic? Yes. Is that the full truth? No. And just reflecting on these things, to look at the habits that you have and call your own bullshit.
Yeah, totally. Confront yourself.
Yeah, so the problem with these lies, like between me and the friends I have where I haven't confronted, is that it's likely that you can keep telling these lies for the rest of your life and no one confronts you.
Yeah.
Because no one wants to have that difficult conversation. So you might need to have it with yourself, or you're holding yourself back.
This is what I do for people in my coaching. I think the biggest gift I can give to someone that you can't learn from a book is to be confronted on these kind of lies.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like when you read a book, you can just agree with everything. But then if you tell someone a story and someone sits on the other hand and like, yeah, I call bullshit.
Yeah.
And then they have to explain, like, I call bullshit on traffic. Like, that's, yeah, you need to be that coach for yourself. You need to call yourself out on these lies. You need to ask yourself, is this the truth? And is it the full truth? And if you don't, you're likely going to end up lying to yourself forever.
Totally. So let's move on to topic number 3, where we explore white lies. And this is my favorite topic.
Let's do that. A few weeks ago, I told a friend of mine that we were going to do a podcast episode about lying. And I told him that my perspective on lying is that it's pretty much always a shitty idea. And he challenged me by telling a story about a lie that he told his wife to see if I agreed with that lie being good or bad. And I've asked him if it's okay that I share this story, and he said that it is. So basically, in his family, he is the main provider, bringing in the dough and supporting his kids and stuff. And during the lockdown, the last 2 years, it's been tough on the financial side. And one day his wife asked him, okay, how are we with money? And the real answer was not good. But he didn't want to worry her, especially since she wouldn't bring in money anyway. So he felt it's unnecessary to worry her. So instead of saying it's not good, he said, yeah, it's all good. Nothing to worry about. And he asked me, like, was this a good lie? I mean, obviously I didn't want to worry her. What would you say?
Okay, so in this topic, we're talking about white lies, which are lies to protect someone else's feelings, right? So you don't do it because you want to get something or manipulate someone. You genuinely want to help someone. And I'm sure that is what our friend did. And that's very compassionate of him, of course. But let's take a deeper look and ask ourselves, what else could be happening here? And then we can see that, sure, he wants to protect her feelings, but there might be another part of him that feels shame over the fact that the finances aren't going so well. And he tries to avoid having a difficult conversation, like we talked about in topic 1. And he might move downwards in the lie spiral. And then it's not a white lie at all. there might be a part of him that feels that maybe I didn't bring in enough money or do anything I could to bring in enough money, or maybe I spent too much money during this period. And he's telling himself that this is a white lie, but what it really is, it's a lie to avoid responsibility. It's not the full truth.
Yeah.
It could even be a lie to get something, which we will talk about in the next topic. But there could be lies in the white lie that is not a white lie at all.
Yeah. So once again, there are ulterior motives. Like it's easy to say, I'm late because of traffic, when in fact there were other things. It's easy to say, I'm not telling her about this because I don't want her to worry, when it's likely that's probably true.
Yeah.
But there are different truths to this. How can I know if what I consider to be a white lie is a white lie? Is there a question I can ask there as well?
Yeah. So I would begin with the two questions we learned about in the last topic. Is this true? Is this the full truth? And for white lies, I would add, you want to say
before
something?
that, is there, okay, so is this true? Like, I'm not telling her this because I don't want her to worry about money.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Is it the full truth? And only he can answer that. I can't say that, but I'm guessing it's not the full truth. There are other feelings and stuff involved as well.
Most likely.
Yeah, and you mentioned one more.
The third question I would ask myself is, how would she feel if she found out that I lied about this?
So why is that a good question?
I think that it's not a bulletproof system, but it gives you an indicator if is this a white lie, or are there more self-centered motives behind this lie?
Okay, so if she would feel good about finding this out, then it's like, oh yeah, he did this out of love.
So sweet of him to do it.
Yeah, and if she would feel disappointed or not trusted or
deceived,
sad or deceived, whatever, then there were probably a lot of other motives around it as well.
Totally. So not a bulletproof system, but it gives you an indicator.
Yeah. I like that question. It reminds me of a story you told me once about you and your ex, which was about money as well, when she had scratched your car.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think you told me it costed €1,000 to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked how much it was. And I think you told her €200 or something like that.
Yeah.
Which was because you had more money than her and you didn't want her to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I could see asking this question here then, what would she feel like if she found out the answer, the truth?
Yeah.
Maybe she would be happy and feel loved and supported. Maybe not. I'm not sure. But I could see, at least in that situation, there's a probability that she would just feel loved and grateful for you doing that. So that's close to a white lie.
Yeah, I think that is one of the better examples that I've been in, where it could be a positive white lie. But I think what's cool when we have explored this topic around white lies is that there's always a better way. Like, not that white lies are always harmful, but there might be a better way to deal with the situation.
Yeah, so let's take that situation with your ex-girlfriend. What would have been a better way than to tell her it was 200 when in fact it was 1,000?
That is a bit tricky, because I told her a white lie because I wanted to protect her economy and I didn't want her to be in debt towards me. And if I got the question today, I might have made a white lie as well in the moment. But today I would have thought through it a bit more, and I would have asked myself, how would she feel if she discovered that I lied about this? And the reality is that she might have felt disappointed that she wasn't allowed to take responsibility for her own lives and her actions, and be disappointed that I lied to her about something. So I think a better option would have been to be more honest about it than telling the white lie.
Okay, so you might have lied there on the spot, but you would have reflected afterwards and probably brought up the conversation again.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's the better way when you realize it. And you don't know how she would feel. You don't know if this is really a white lie, or if it's, as you said, you don't want her to be indebted to you, like, does that mean that it's actually a selfish reason because you don't want that strain on your relationship?
Yeah.
For your sake.
Yeah. I could have just come back later and said, hey, babe, it actually didn't cost 200 euros. It cost more than that, but I would love to pay for it.
Yeah.
And how would you feel about that?
And you give her the opportunity. Like, if you don't ask me how much it is, I'm not going to tell you, but it was more.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's a similar situation here when the story about our friend there, that he probably got caught on the spot. And if he would have time to think about it, he might have come up with a different answer. And maybe that answer is, it's not as good as I would want the financial to be, but I feel that we will handle this.
Yeah.
That might have been a better answer, or just answering, I need to look into that and take some time to actually bring up the calculations and think about it. And I think it's so easy that you end up telling a white lie on the spot. And that's not necessarily a valid excuse for doing it, because you can always reflect on it and bring it back up. It's really hard to tell someone, hey, I actually lied to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still valuable.
I think a strong strategy that I implement as much as I can, even though I tell white lies sometimes still, is to avoid them, because it's so hard to know where is the limit before a white lie turns into a lie to avoid difficult conversations or a lie to avoid responsibility.
Yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. And if you have the autopilot of telling the truth, then you don't end up in that gray zone where it's so easy to trick yourself.
Yeah.
That I tell this is a white lie so I can get away with it.
Yeah.
And you're not holding yourself to the standard of, I'm going to be honest in all my interactions because it's what's best for my relationships and it's what's best for my personal growth.
Yeah. And in our friend's case, it could be, let me just take a moment to look through my finances and I get back to you.
Yeah.
Yes. So to summarize, white lies are to protect someone else's feelings. But if we ask the 3 questions, is this true? Is this the full truth? And how would the other person feel if they found out about this white lie? Then we can discover that beneath some white lies, there are actually lies to avoid feelings of shame and lies to avoid responsibility.
Probably in all white lies. I haven't been able to come up with a white lie that doesn't have those ulterior motives.
That has some nuance of that.
I mean, I've tried, and I haven't found a single white lie that doesn't have some ulterior motives.
And also, white lies takes away the other person's opportunity to deal with reality as it is.
Yeah.
And it makes it hard for us to understand. If we use white lies, it's hard to know where they turn into more self-centered kind of lies.
Yeah. And I think a valuable point here as well, that it's very easy that we end up telling lies when we get caught on the spot, regardless if it's white lies or something else. But it's a crucial part for your own personal growth and for your relationships to be brave enough to bring that up.
Yeah.
And you could say, like, I got caught on the spot here.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of times you've said an answer to a question before you ever thought of it. It's like a tenth of a second and you've said something. It's like, that wasn't the best way to say it. And it's hard to take words back.
Definitely. And that there's always a better way than the white lie. They might not be harmful, but they might not be the best way to deal with a situation.
No, there's always a better way, but it's hard to find it sometimes.
Yeah, so better to have a zero tolerance. Right, so let's move on to the 4th topic, which is lying to get something.
Yes. Okay, so I'm 15 years old and have this beautiful girlfriend. And my parents won't let me sleep at her place. So being a trustworthy and honest 15-year-old, I obviously didn't do that. I didn't at all tell my friend Jacob that I was going to sleep at his place, but then sleep at her place. Okay, yeah, I did. Sorry, Dad, if you're listening. But yeah, that happened. Either way, so I went to her place on a Friday. And I had told my friend Jacob that I would tell my parents that I would sleep at his place. And Jacob like, yeah, fine, that's good. And then on the Saturday morning, the phone rings at my parents' house. And it's Jacob. And he says, hello, it's Jacob. Is Eric there?
What?
And luckily, my brother picked up the phone and he says, no, he's supposed to be at your place. And Jacob, realizing his mistake, like, oh, yeah, we're playing hide and seek. I can't find him. Yeah, and my brother didn't really believe that. So, like, he's at Daniela's place, right? Yeah, which was my girlfriend. And Jacob, like, yes. And luckily, it was my brother who picked up the phone, and I never got caught in this story. But either way, I'm telling this story to introduce a different kind of lie that isn't about shame as the other ones, but rather lying to get something. Like,
Right.
Yeah. So what is lying to get something?
It could be lies like here, you lie to get the opportunity to spend time with your girlfriend, or it could be to get status or money or get a job position that maybe you otherwise couldn't get, or just get out of trouble. Could be another one.
Yeah. So these lies have a clear upside that it's easy to understand.
Yeah, much easier to understand. And without moralizing, which we don't want to do, we can see more situations where it actually makes sense to tell these kind of lies. And especially in situations where one person has more power than the other one. Like in this case with your parents are an authority. They have more power than you. They make decisions for you. So it's more understandable that you tell lies towards them.
If I don't agree with their standpoint, it makes sense that I kind of
it's more understandable that you want to rebel. I can imagine being gay in a country where it's illegal to be gay, and the police asks me, "Are you gay?" It would make a lot more sense to lie about it. And
yeah, that's definitely an easy to understand situation where almost everyone would lie.
Yeah, and a more common one would be maybe you have a boss that is in a power position over you, and you make some kind of lie to avoid getting into trouble.
Yeah.
To make ends meet for your family or whatever situation you could be put in.
It becomes easier to understand. Like there is a clear upside of lying in that situation, and there isn't the same way a clear upside by telling the truth, personal development, shame, whatever. It's a different equation.
Yeah, the downsides are more what consequences you get in over time.
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me of when I was 16. I started playing poker with my friends. Home games, real cards. We played for cents. And me and a friend discovered how to cheat deal. So instead of dealing normally, you took the bottom card of the deck, and I gave that to my friend, which was a good card, and he gave good cards to me, so we would have better cards than our friends. And we learned this like maybe from the internet, and we just wanted to try if it worked. Very innocently at first. We didn't want to win money. We just wanted to see, does this work? And we wanted to win in the game.
So it was more of a prank than a cheat.
More of a prank. And then we won, and then let's try again next week. And we won again. And let's try again next week. And maybe you can see.
I have a slight idea where this is going.
Yeah, no, it ended badly. Actually, one game, one of my friends saw me deal the bottom card, and he pointed that out in front of all of my friends. And he was like, you motherfucker, like, are you cheating us, taking our money? And he looked me in the eyes with such disappointment and said, I will never play against you for money ever again.
And being pointed out like that in front of everyone.
Yeah, I felt so much shame. And it started like, I just didn't think about it. I didn't have any real bad intentions. I'm actually incredibly happy it happened in hindsight, because I ended up playing professional poker after that. And if I would have done that cheat against some grown-up with big money, I could have ended up
in a dumpster somewhere.
6 feet under.
It's interesting to look at that story from two perspectives. One is like you were playing for cents, you said, like really tiny money.
Yeah.
So the upside of cheating was really small. Like you didn't win much money, but you took like a big risk in terms of friendships and everything around you, and probably one of the worst guilt feelings you've had, I'm assuming.
Totally.
So it was a really poor risk-reward ratio. Like if you're gay and you're saying in a country where you might get killed for that, it makes complete sense to lie. And like the risk-reward ratio is pretty good. Like lie, survive. Tell the truth, die. In this scenario, it's more like cheat, which is another way of lying, win a few cents, but being risked to get caught like this. And I think that's an interesting thing to keep in mind without moralizing about lying or not lying, just the risk-reward ratio. Like what happens if I get caught here compared to what can I get out of it? But another interesting element to this story is how innocently it starts and how hard it is to see where it's going to end. It's like it starts with you watching a video online, learning how to make a little trick. And you're probably thinking, oh, I'm going to see if this works.
Yeah.
And then it does work. And from that, you take a little bit step further and a little bit step further and a little bit further until you get caught. And you don't stop until you get caught, which is a danger with lies. That's often how it works. And luckily now you got caught still with 16-year-olds and not with the mafia or whatever. But I can see that's how things progressing. And I know a long time ago with my ex-girlfriend, I was like, I would never cheat on her. I would never do anything. And I stuck to that for a long time. And then one party, I kissed someone and was like, I shouldn't have done that. And then that opened up lies and things started happening around it. And then suddenly I took it one step further and one step further. And I ended up living like a double life for a while. Like I would never have started there. It was because of those tiny little incremental lies that was completely unforeseeable. Well, completely. I didn't look that far.
Who could have seen that coming?
I didn't look that far. It felt unforeseeable with that first kiss that was like you playing cards.
Yeah, I heard someone told me about an experiment, or it's cruelty actually, but if you put a frog into boiling water, it would just jump out of the boiling water. But if you put it in cold water and then heat up the temperature, it will stay in there until it dies.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
I'm not sure this is true. We should test this. Let's not test it. But it's kind of the same thing, right? It's hard to know when it's too hot.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you would never do that big lie to start with.
Yeah.
Or I wouldn't. But when it starts that small, it gets really hard to predict. And I think that's
kind of the same thing that happened to me in the first story in this episode, where with my ex, when you I started with small lies. It's just a dinner, and then it becomes way too hot in the water.
Yeah, and then by the end of it, your lie is basically, I'm happy in this relationship, when you're not.
And it's a huge lie, and I didn't realize when it became too hot.
Yeah, that's interesting. So this is a big part of why lying becomes dangerous, because it's so hard to predict where you're going.
Yeah, one lie creates the next.
Yeah, and it's a domino effect.
Yeah. So how would you summarize this topic?
Yes, I would summarize this that lying to get something is probably the easiest lie to understand, and the ones that makes the most sense in some situations. What's difficult with these kinds of lies, moral or ethical, whatever you want to look at it is that it's hard to predict where you're going. And it's really hard to stop once you start. And what else?
It's more understandable if there's an uneven power balance.
Yeah, exactly. It's more understandable with an uneven power balance. If you're lying to a police in a country and you're gay and it's illegal, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But when you're lying to someone in a home game playing poker for cents, then it's an even power balance and you're really messed up there.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Right. So let's move on to the toolbox and look at how someone can be more honest in their life.
So the better you get at having difficult conversations, the less need you will feel for lying. And having difficult conversations is, by definition, difficult. It's kind of in there in the word. But in this topic, we will give a toolbox with 6 different steps to keep in mind to make it a lot easier to have these difficult conversations.
And can I just make a reminder from topic 1 that if you can have these, you will allow yourself to show a lot of things you feel shame over, which will raise your confidence and self-esteem and personal growth.
Yeah. And it will make the other difficult conversations easier to start with.
Totally.
Yeah, which is a secret number, step 7, that we're not mentioning in this toolbox. That it will just get easier over time.
Why this is important.
Yeah, why this is important. Yes. So let's start by looking at the first step here, which is don't bring it up in the heat of the moment. Meaning that once you get a question, for example, and you feel that, oh, I want to say no here, but I'd rather that it's easier to say yes. It's fine to say yes at this time, but it's important that you bring this conversation up later.
I remember, so if I use this in my first example with my ex-girlfriend, I remember one time where I tried to be honest and she called me and I was distracted because I was playing poker on the internet. And she called me and said, hey, I want to go and do a sailing course. Do you want to join me? And I just felt, no, I don't want to join. And she got so angry and disappointed because I didn't even take in her idea or do anything because I was distracted.
Yeah, so that's exactly what happens here. Like you answer straight in the moment and she feels rejected. You were stressed. You didn't have time to have that conversation.
Yeah, I was playing
She
poker.
was probably super excited because she just had this idea.
Yeah.
And you're ending up in a tricky situation where a better situation would have been maybe to even say yes at first or say, can I get back to you? I'm playing or whatever.
Yeah.
And then take some time to think about how you want to put this up. And we'll get to this in the second step, because the second step is to prepare for a difficult conversation. And this is done in 2 different ways. And you can do this by starting by asking yourself, why is this important to the other person? Because if you do that, you will get a much better understanding of where she's coming from. So if we take that example with the sailing trip, ask yourself, why is this important to her?
She likes sailing and she would love to share that interest with me because she loves me and she wants me to have a good time and she wants me to be included in her life and she feels like I'm important to her. Her family loves sailing, so she would like to bring me closer to her family. Yeah.
Yes, you see what happens here when you start asking this question is that you put yourself in her shoes and it's hard to react from that, no, I don't want to do this or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You get to a place of empathy and understanding and it becomes much more, you become in tune with where she's coming from. And this is just part of preparing for this. The second part of preparing for this is to ask, why is it important for you to not do this or whatever it is that's more important for you?
Right. And then I might say it would be too time consuming. I don't have any interest in sailing. Maybe that's not something I want to spend money on. But then those excuses start becoming bullshitty.
Yeah. So what happens here is that you give pretty shallow excuses that will be hard for her to kind of agree with.
That's true.
I don't want to spend money on it. I don't want to spend time on it.
Yeah, I don't even believe it myself.
If I'm her, what I'm hearing is rejection.
Yeah.
So what's important here is to start asking yourself, why do I feel this way? What is it that you want to do with your time instead?
Right. So maybe that would be that right now I feel like I don't have the time I want to have into my projects. And that makes me feel like I'm not enough, like I can't do what I want to do to give my gift to the world, so to say. I can't yeah, I can't put enough love into my projects, and that makes me feel like I'm not good enough.
Okay, so the reason you wouldn't want to go on a sailing education is because you feel that you aren't contributing to the projects that you care about and the world as much as you would want to. So if you don't do that, you will feel insignificant and you will feel probably shame and guilt for not trying more to help other people. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so now we're getting into a deeper level of what you want to do with your time and how it makes you feel if you can't do that.
Yeah. And I also have an opportunity here to see, maybe I'm saying no for the wrong reasons. Maybe it's actually saying no because I feel like I'm not good enough as a person. And what I really need to work on is my self-esteem, maybe not my projects.
Yeah. So
I could find stuff like that as well.
This brings you deeper. And either way, you're currently in a conversation with yourself, preparing to have a difficult conversation with your ex-girlfriend. And you understand her perspective better and you understand why it is that you say no. Because if you say no in the heat of the moment, she will ask you why. And you probably don't know. And you might answer quickly something made up.
It costs money. And then you have a fight about money that has nothing to do with
Which isn't what it's about. So this is a part of the preparation. Like, don't act out in the heat of the moment. Don't just answer. Don't attack someone in the heat of the moment either. Because let's say here, just to put an extra level on the first one. Let's say she asks you if you want to go sailing. You say no. Here's another opportunity for her to not lash out in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Because, okay, this feels like an important conversation to have later on, but I'm guessing that she did lash out in the heat of the moment and you end up having an unnecessary fight where you don't really understand each other.
Yeah, totally.
Yes, it goes both ways. Both people can be the person who slows things down, and unfortunately, often no one does.
Yeah.
But so step 1, don't take it out in the heat of the moment. Step 2, prepare. And step 3 is about timing. So timing here comes back to don't act it out in the heat of the moment. And it's basically bring up a difficult conversation where both of you are in a good mental state. Like, you're not stressed out, you're not playing poker or on a call or at work or need to go somewhere, but you're actually, okay, I know that we have at least an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours for each other here. And you know that we're not hungry, we're not stressed, we're not angry. So all of this, you have the opportunity of picking the time. If you don't act straight away.
Yeah. So don't send her a voice message when she's at work. Wait until you can sit down and look at each other in the eyes.
Exactly. So when would have been a good timing for you to bring this up with the sailing? Like, when would you have best time with her?
Maybe on a Saturday morning where we had a good night's sleep and we both have energy and we're in a good mood.
Yeah. So that's the third step. Like, first step, don't do it straight away. Second, prepare. Third, pick a good time.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean procrastinate forever. Pick a good enough timing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good enough timing.
Yeah.
So the thing, if you wait for too long, it's just really hard to bring it up because then you've already done the sailing course. And it's really... Pick a time within a week and preferably sooner than that, but don't do it straight away. The fourth step here is to ask for permission. And this is interesting because it creates a common understanding of that what we're going to talk about now is important. And it kind of sets the tone. So let's say we are on this Saturday morning that you said, and you start by asking her, like, there is this thing that is important to me to talk about. Do you have space and energy for us to focus on that for the next hour? Because if you ask her that, she's most likely going to say yes. Or she actually might say, I'm actually really tired now. Could we do it later?
Yeah.
Or I actually have to work, which you maybe didn't know about, or she has plans that you didn't know about. So she has a buy-in in this conversation. And already by doing this, she knows that this is going to be important. You're not going to catch her by surprise. Like when she calls you and she's super excited about this sailing trip and you say no, you surprise her.
Yeah.
She gets shocked and she acts out in shock.
Mhm.
While if you start by saying, is it okay if we talk about something that's important? That's a gentle way of like opening that door.
So she sits down, she activates her ears, starts to listen more.
Yeah, and she clears her agenda. Well, at least she knows that I'm not going to go anywhere anytime soon, and whatever it is about this. Okay, and step 5 is to open the conversation with your intention of having this conversation and with vulnerability, meaning basically what you're feeling right when you need to tell her this.
Right.
So how would you have done this?
Okay, so intention. So I might sit down and I might say, I don't feel good about going to the sailing trip. I don't want to do that.
Okay, so if you start by saying, what are you feeling before you even start talking? How do you feel when you start this conversation?
I might feel nervous because I'm afraid that she would get angry at me. I feel that it's an important conversation to have. I feel like I do it because I care a lot about her. I want us to understand each other better. So I'm willing to go through this, even though it's painful.
Yeah. So what you've said here already then is you've been vulnerable and said, I'm nervous. You're scared for having this conversation. And that your intention is for you guys to understand each other, basically, like because you care about this relationship and about her. So knowing that, how would you have started the conversation with that information?
All right. So yeah, the first draft I made now, I think she would have gotten angry because I just started right off saying I don't want to go on the trip.
It would be easier, more likely that she would get angry at least.
Yeah, so maybe I would have said then, just closed my eyes and tuned into what I'm feeling. And if I'm feeling maybe nervous, I might say, hey, I'm nervous telling you this because I'm afraid I will disappoint you. And I'm afraid it's going to make our relationship worse, which hurts me because I want our relationship to get better. That's why I'm talking to you now. But the truth is, I don't feel excited about going to the boat trip. And I would like to share why that is.
And I think that's a great way to open this then, because, I mean, from her perspective, she's definitely going to be disappointed and sad. But you've shown respect. You've shown that you this is your emotional, real you. It's really hard to get angry with someone who is nervous and scared.
Yeah.
That openly shows their emotions. So you've created a space for the two of you when you have time to talk about this. You've asked for her permission. She has a buy-in in this. You're now in a place where you have a lot of time to talk about it, and you're opening the conversation with that you're scared, but you want this to turn out good. You're not just saying no to her on the phone and basically communicating, no, poker is more important than you.
Yeah.
Instead, you're communicating, you are more important than my Saturday.
Yeah.
And it's put you in a completely different chance of having this conversation. It's still going to be a difficult conversation, but it's a very different thing.
Yeah. But you set yourself up for an empathic conversation instead of a conflict.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And step 6 in this isn't really a step, more of a mindset to keep in mind. And it is, don't try to be right. So this is another thing that at least I've done a lot when I've been in discussions with my family or fiance or whatever. I try to be right. It's in this situation, it's easy to think that there is a right way to think about sailing. You might say sailing is stupid, and she says sailing is awesome. Or a right amount of time to spend with her family, or it's not the perfect example for that mindset, but just being aware of this is not about right or wrong, because the second you get into that, you're in opposing teams.
Yeah.
Sailing is good or sailing is bad. You're not trying to connect. And just keeping that mindset in mind, like, okay, it's not about being right or wrong here. It's about understanding each other.
Right.
And the second we start thinking about right or wrong, we're no longer trying to understand each other. We're trying to win.
Right. So if I would be thinking about right or wrong, then she would say spending time together is the right thing to do if you're a couple. And what's right for me is, no, I want to prioritize work over the relationship. And she says, no, that's the wrong way of being.
Yeah.
And I think she is wrong for prioritizing family. And then we have an argument where one person will win and one person will lose, instead of looking at, okay, what do both of us need? And how can we find a win-win situation where both get what we need in some way?
Exactly. And it's so easy to end up here just taking for granted that the right thing is to spend time with family, or the right thing is to work with your project.
The right thing is what I think, right?
Exactly.
And I'm still way too stubborn in these conversations. I need to remind myself of this all the time.
I have this picture on my phone.
I do it all the time.
I have a picture on my phone saying, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Yeah.
But just having that mindset when you go into a conversation like this, like there isn't a right for basically anything. Like there are opinions, and there isn't a right amount of how much you should clean the home. It isn't a right amount of how much time you should spend with your family or on your projects. There isn't a right amount of how long you should take a walk with a dog or whenever. There are opinions and there are needs and there are these things. And as soon as we start talking about right or wrong, we start fighting each other.
Yeah.
So how would you summarize these steps?
Well, you teach them, so I would like to hear a 6-step summary from you.
I teach them. Yeah. Okay. So step 1, don't act out in the heat of the moment. And even if you get a question that's hard, it's better to kind of say yes and then change your mind than to say no abruptly and end up in a fight. Like it's fine to change your mind. I think that's an important thing to keep in mind. Secondly, prepare for the conversation. Start by asking yourself, why is this important to the other person? And list those reasons and try to understand them. Put yourself in their shoes. And the second part of preparing is to ask yourself, why is it important to me? And try to go deep. Like, try to understand, why is this good? Why is this important from an emotional standpoint? Like, how will I feel if I don't do this? Because that's usually where we can connect with each other. Like, she can probably not understand how important you think a project is, but you can understand that you might feel shame or guilt if you don't do this. She can understand that feeling. Yeah. Thirdly, and I hope I get them in the right order, timing. Pick a time that is good for the both of you, where you are high in energy, where you have plenty of time, where you're rested, you're not hungry, not stressed, and make sure that's a good choice. And don't wait too long, not more than a week. Fourth, ask for permission. Like, start by saying, is it okay if we have a conversation that is important for me? Give them the opportunity to say no, because maybe it's not a good time for them, or maybe they don't want to, or whatever.
But if they say no, plan it later this week.
Exactly.
So can we talk on Tuesday then?
Yeah, and pretty much no one says no to that question. But it happens. I know that, both me and Johanna have said no to that question at various times. Like, I don't have the energy now. Can we do it later?
Totally, yeah.
And that's a crucial part. And the fifth one is
intention and vulnerability.
Nice, because I forgot. Intentions and vulnerability. So start by saying how you're feeling right now, that you are nervous about this conversation, but that you're having this conversation anyway because the relationship is important. It creates a bond between you because you probably have the same intentions. You want the relationship to work, regardless if it's a friendship or whatever it is about. And the sixth one, which is
Emil is always right.
Emil is always right, is the step 6. So keep that in mind. And if Emil is not in the conversation, just call Emil, because he will know. No one is right. And don't try to be right or wrong. And one kind of extra concept to keep in mind is, when you're having this conversation, remind yourself of the things you thought of in the preparation. Like, it makes sense if you tell her in the conversation, like, I understand that you want to sail because you want me to be closer with your family and because you love this and whatever. This will help her to feel that you've actually given this thought. You care about her and her perspective, and you do. You did give this time. You want to understand her. So it creates, once again, a feeling that you're in the same team. You're not fighting each other.
That's awesome. So the intention we had with this episode was not to determine if lying is right or wrong morally, but to look at the real-life consequences of telling lies, especially those everyday lies you tell to your friends and your family, and most importantly, to yourself. Because if you don't know when you lie, how are you ever going to become aware and change and grow as a person? So we invite you to think more about the lies that you do tell and find creative ways to be honest instead. Do you have something to add?
No, I think that's brilliant. So one last tip I would like to give you listening is to make use of your downtime in life. Like, don't just scroll Instagram or play games. Listen to something to learn. If you're waiting for the bus or going on a train or just driving around, listen to a podcast or a book. And if you haven't listened to all of our episodes, there are like 80 something episodes in our catalog right now. And we've spent a lot of hours creating what we believe to be the most value per minute from any podcast out there. So have a look at the rest of our episodes.
Totally. And if you want to help us out some way, please press subscribe, either on YouTube or in your podcast app, because that way the algorithms sees that this is an important podcast and we can rise into top lists so more people can hear about these ideas that make lives better.
And thank you for today.
Thank you.